This campaign was a bit of a turning point, I would say, for Oura Ring.
The whole concept of give us the finger is sort of an act of defiance against aging. It was bold, it was spicy, it was relevant to the time, and then it also was so specific to the product. It wasn't just some big campaign message that was not married to the actual thing that they're selling.
It's, dare I say, a perfect campaign.
You think so much about the budget and the metrics, but if you put half as much of that effort into just like what the freaking copy is saying, that can change the unit economics of your whole campaign more than anything.
With a premium product, you have to be in their face, right? You have to like speak to the tribe. You have to preach to the converted.
People are now looking for the wrinkles because it shows that it's real. And I think that is what this campaign meant to me. It's like, keep the wrinkles in there. And I think that's what people are craving right now.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
Listen to this. Listen to this.
Memorable?
Well, then be less boring.
Boring?
Remarkable.
Remarkable.
Remarkable. Remarkable.
I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. You're listening to Remarkable. This week, we're talking marketing lessons from the Oura Ring's Give Us the Finger campaign. With the help of our special guest, Chief Marketing Officer and content extraordinaire, Sylvia, how are you?
I am excellent. That's probably the best introduction I've ever had. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well deserved. Excited to dig into the Oura Give Us the Finger campaign, your background, marketing, everything in between. You've been very early marketing at a number of unicorn startups. So excited to dig into all that. But first, why the heck did you pick the Give Us the Finger campaign to talk about today?
I'll tell you how I found it. Well, one, I have an Oura ring. It's a ring.
Oh.
You wear it on your finger. It's kind of like a replacement for an Apple Watch, but goes much deeper into sleep metrics specifically, as well as everything in your life shows up in your sleep. So it tends to be an overall kind of life wearable. It's very, very popular. And they did this campaign called Give Us the Finger.
Which,
I
for our
read about
listeners that are not viewing this, she's giving us the finger right now.
Yeah, exactly. You wear it on your pointer finger. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Apparently, it has better data that way. But I found this campaign because I actually read Kira Kloss has this Substack newsletter called On Brand, and she was talking about how brands really need better copy. And this is the campaign that she used as an example for that. And the campaign they ran was called Give Us the Finger. And it was just so incredible because I think it shows that they, one, really understand their audience. The whole concept of Give Us the Finger is sort of an act of defiance against aging. And everyone I talk to who's like 30 plus is obsessed with longevity and biohacking and health, right? And so I love that they're leaning into that longevity perspective and focusing on, how do you make aging, an incredible experience, achieve this longevity? And they use this Give Us the Finger to do that. And I felt like, they just understood the moment. They understood what people are focused on and thinking about. And it just has this boldness and spiciness to it that is so rare, especially in B2B. We need more of that. And that's why it really resonated with me, because I felt like, especially in this age of like AI written slop, that there's a lot of content out there more than ever, but there isn't a lot that has like a soul to it. And this one just had that soul and spiciness to it. And then it also is just so relevant to the product. You wear it on your finger. And so I loved that it was just so tied into the actual device and the product and how you use it and interact with it. And so it was bold, it was spicy, it was relevant to the time. And then it also was so specific to the product. It wasn't just some big campaign message that was, not married to the actual thing that they're selling.
It's, dare I say, a perfect campaign. And I'm excited to dig into it. But first, you've been a CMO a couple times now. You have something new and exciting brewing, which we can't share with the people. Yeah, I mean, I guess like going from early stage to leading the marketing show, um, what's it been like thinking about content as it fits into that?
Huge. I mean, my biggest learning, like if I could rewind the clock to the early days, the biggest thing I would do differently is leaning into content that's building for the 95%. Like 95% of your buyer is not in market at any moment, only 5% is. And it's very lucrative and tempting to pour all of your resources into that 5% and try to capture the existing demand. But eventually that's going to top out. That's going to cap out. And to really achieve that hockey stick long-term growth, you need to invest in the 95%. And so that's what I would do. If I could rewind the clock, go back and do things differently, I would do a little more for that 95% because it's really setting you up for that long-term growth that's efficient. And it's all based on having a really strong and powerful brand. And those are things that are hard to prioritize when you're in the hamster wheel of trying to hit the number next quarter and next month, but are just absolutely essential to the long term getting to that scale growth level.
Meredith, what the heck is Aura's Give Us the Finger campaign?
So I'll start with a quote from Aura CMO Doug Sweeney. He said, "As a culture, we've been conditioned to try and escape the reality of aging, drawn instead to the search for eternal youth. But the truth is, aging is inevitable, and getting older is a gift. When we're fortunate enough to do it in good health, our later years can be some of the most meaningful. In 2025, we want to empower our members to meet their health journey with fierce optimism and a clear purpose, to live longer, healthier, and more vibrantly than ever before," which I feel like really sums up this campaign. To talk more about the creation of the campaign, the main video ad started with 80 to 100 ideas for these vignettes of older folks in their like 40s to 70s doing different activities. So, like playing piano, playing chess, hiking, dancing. And they narrowed it down to just 9 scenes that they take you through as a viewer. So, you're sort of going through each of these scenes and it's leading one to the next to the next. And in each scene, people are doing actual things that they really do in real life. So, they really try to find people, like cast people that were active. They call them the coolest old people for the ad. And so they have George Papoutsis, who's a viral street basketball player who makes like trick shots and he's always taking down younger players. And so in the ad, he's like spinning a basketball on his finger and on his pointer finger. He's also wearing the Oura ring. And there are dancers Monica Romero and Omar Ocampo who are doing the tango. And so they have real people, like I said, doing real things. And they really were looking to be more relatable than aspirational. And the campaign was created by the agency Nice and Frank. And so they have this like central, what they call it, a film, but the main ad, but they also did local activations in specific certain cities. So there was Give NYC the Finger. So Nice and Frank got together a group of older folks to hail cabs using their pointer finger wearing the Oura ring. And then they took them all around New York. And so they had this huge group of cabs just going around. They're like hanging out the door and like pretending like they're giving each other, like flipping the bird, like giving each other the finger. And then there were other activations like Los Angeles, Miami, and London. So it's very playful, very subversive, a little bit provocative, right? And then the main ad was also played during major TV events like the NBA playoffs. So just to make sure they got all the eyes that they could. Overall, like this campaign was a bit of a turning point, I would say, for Oura Ring, because they're kind of known for tracking things like sleep for like younger sort of health conscious people. And so now they're trying to target older folks or people of all ages really who want to also track like menstrual cycles, cardiovascular and metabolic health.
Kiss my Oura Ring.
So it's also an effort to sort of expand their reach, their audience, and show all the things that the Oura Ring can do, which also sounds like me saying an ad, which is okay. But I'm wondering, Sylvia, if it wearing one, since you have one and have the experience of seeing all the different things it can show you, has it made you think differently about your health and what you're tracking and how you're living?
Oh, 100%. It's been actually one of the most transformative devices or health investments that I've made. The main thing is actually was the reason I stopped drinking alcohol. And
Whoa,
the
okay.
reason for that is because when you drink, you can have even just like half a glass of wine, your sleep metrics are going to look awful the next day. And we all kind of know this in our minds, but when you see it in the data every single day and it's like yelling at you, like your sleep score was 40 out of 100 last night, like good luck with your day. It just makes you see, is it worth having that glass of wine a little bit differently?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, very, very transformative. And
That's
that
crazy.
I think it's just been, I'm just a healthier, happier person. I'll probably live longer and age better because of that.
That's so
Amazing.
cool. Yeah.
Changing lives.
Yeah. And I live in Miami and they had those activations all over. And so I would see the billboards as I was driving to the office every day. And I just loved it makes you feel like you're part of something that's an act of defiance against, aging in a way that you don't want to. And so I think it had a positive impact, not just on expanding their market, but on the folks that already still use it right now as well.
That's so cool.
My first takeaway from this is that I didn't realize that they were using sort of like famously active older people. I didn't even, so the fact that they did that like makes me like it even more.
Yeah.
But it's like I didn't even like know that, right? I just thought it was just, just people, right? So when you have a wearable, like you have such a huge advantage because you can show it, right? It's like, unless it looks weird, and then maybe don't. But if you're making a wearable, you should probably make it so it isn't weird. But you think of like the iconic, Apple headphones. I'm literally wearing headphones that are probably when the first iPhone came out. But the white headphones, or like the Beats headphones, or AirPods, or whatever it is, any type of wearable, which if you can make it cool in any way. The Oura Ring is just so nondescript, right? It's just so simple, but you wear it on your pointer finger, which is weird, right? Like there's not a ton of people that wear rings on their pointer finger. So that does make it like inherently unique. I didn't know that you get better data from this. I only recently looked into this probably a couple weeks ago. So not in preparation for the episode, just because I was like, hey, I should probably start thinking about my my health more. So I love all the things that you said, Sylvia, where it's like, it very much is insular. It's like, it's something that it's an act of defiance, but it's also an act of sort of, gentle herding, where it's like all the people who, you see someone who has an Oura Ring, you're like, yeah, isn't this thing great? Give us the finger, you get the, fun, tongue-in-cheek wordplay. It shows your brand isn't super serious, even though, you are serious about things. Making the enemy something external, right, that we're all fighting against, in this case, aging, which has like legit, I would say, I don't know, scuttlebutt on the internet with like the anti-aging sort of like super advocates that are a bit I don't know, braggadocious, to say probably in an understatement. But so I think that, like, again, there's a way to do this wrong, right? Like there is a way to be in your face. There's a way to be like, you're all going to die younger than me. Like there is a way to do this in a wrong way. And I think that this is like, very playful and fun. And it highlights the product, and it highlights just how like simple and easy it is, and how easy it looks, and how simple it looks, and that, you're getting all this stuff. And it shows you, it's one of those things like when you buy a red car, or you buy a red Camry, and then you start seeing red Camrys everywhere. It's one of those campaigns, like when you saw this campaign, you start seeing Oura Rings everywhere, right? You're like, oh shit, there's a ton of people who do this. So that's why I kind of say it's like a perfect campaign. It's like, it's just enough to get you thinking, to get you sort of in that 95% out of market phase, but maybe start to move you like into something where you're in a consideration phase. Like for sure. I mean, it didn't do it. I mean, maybe it did. I don't know. I don't know if it was this campaign that moved me into sort of consideration phase, but like definitely, you know, like one of the first things that I searched was them. So their brand stuff does for sure work. And it's also just like a really expensive price point. And I think that like you gotta have killer copy and visuals, and you got to do a lot of this stuff, and you can't just be with a premium product. You just can't be, you have to be in their face, right? You have to like speak to the tribe, you have to preach to the converted, and you have to help them be your advocates. And I feel like this does just like checks like every box on the how to make a great campaign, without being like radically, it's not radical by any stance, and it's not even saying anything that's like particularly crazy, right? It's just good.
Yeah, like it acts like it's taking a stand, but it's taking a stand that most people, or probably everyone, would agree with.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's amazing about it. And I think the impact that it has, like I was in a yoga class a couple months ago. I was visiting San Diego, and this woman comes up to me who has an Oura ring. I was with one of my former coworkers who also has an Oura ring, and she comes up to us all excited. She's like, "Oh, you guys have Oura rings." And it was so hilarious. It was just like this, "Oh, we're all on the same team" type of thing. Like, "Oh, hey, I see you wearing this thing, and that means that you care about your health." And that makes me want to come up and talk to you.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you feel like you're part of a community, even though it's a community that probably most people would agree with. And it sounds like it's taking a stand, but it's taking a stand that most people would agree with.
Well, Sylvia, it's so damn hard to talk to anyone about anything in this world. So if you have just a morsel of something in common where you're like, hey, I see that you also put a ring on your pointer finger
Exactly.
and track your health, we have something to talk about for sure.
Exactly. And I first shared this campaign. Actually, I did a LinkedIn post about it a couple months back. And the whole topic of the post is polish becoming the enemy of creativity? And the way that I like to talk about this is with AI, AI takes the wrinkles out of your writing. I heard someone say this once. It takes the wrinkles out. Like it takes the edges off. You like brain dump this, section of copy and you put it into ChatGPT and it's going to spit it back out at you, but it's going to take out some of those like edges. It's going to take out some of the detail. It's going to take out some of the wrinkles, some of the things that people are now looking for the wrinkles because it shows that it's real. And I think that is what this campaign meant to me. It's like, keep the wrinkles in there. Let's talk about, aging with defiance. Like that feels to me like a form of like, you're keeping some of the sharp edges in there. And I think that's what people are craving right now.
That's interesting. I feel like this is a pretty polished campaign. It's interesting that you'd say, I mean, I agree with everything you just said, but I couldn't agree more. And I actually have a newsletter robot that writes my newsletter. I give it like a prompt and then I like read what it wrote. And I'm basically like, okay, I would never write that. I go do my own thing. Cause it just doesn't have the humanity that I sort of like need in my particular writing. But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like this is like a really polished campaign. The thing that I think is so cool about it is like the people that they're highlighting. They're just really good images. But I don't know. I feel like it's really polished, but maybe.
Yeah. And maybe what it's showing is that polish doesn't have to be the enemy of creativity. Like they were able to achieve both.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of companies, it's a very, very hard thing to do, is to tread that line of having something that's incredibly creative and has like a spark and a soul to it, but that is also polished. I think that's actually really hard. And I actually see content right now. My observation is that you either have to be super polished and high production and have like this like spark and flashiness to it, or you have to be super raw. And it's like I'm walking down the street with my iPhone or something. And it feels like the in-between content is what's kind of falling into the sea of sameness noise. And you kind of have to be one or the other for it to work. And I think you're right. This one is very polished, but it still has that creativity and spark and soul to it. But I think a lot of companies that try to go the polish route, you've got the 7 layers of approvals and stuff, and all of the good stuff gets, taken out before it can go live.
I would push back on what you said a tiny bit. I love what you said, but I would push back on it a tiny bit, which is I think brands need to do both. I think they like have to do both now. Is like you have to figure out ways. And the thing is like, so woman walking down the street with the recording, the reason why it's so exciting is because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like you don't know if she's going to walk into a manhole or if a bird is going to hit her in the face or if she's going to drop her phone or what she's saying next, right? So it's like inherently there is some level of the candid nature like adds to it. Now, you know that it's like she's not going to record or post the version of her getting hit by the bird, but like there is that sort of level of serendipity in it, which is like very less polished, but it also like clearly is authentic, even if it's take number 50, it still feels authentic. And I think that like so often storytelling, like you look at like film, like some of the most like visceral, gritty films feel, unpolished or whatever, feel chaotic or whatever. And I think that like finding that aesthetic is really important. And I think that what is so important is authentic does not mean scripted versus unscripted. Authentic means authentic, but you need to figure out the different ways in which you want to communicate messaging to your audience. And like this, the give us the finger thing is such a good thing because I don't know what their plan is. You can run this campaign for the next 50 years. Like you never need to ever, unless they change, stuff about the company. If the product stays more or less the same, you run this for 50 years. You do user generated stuff. You do, events. They could do a tie-in with like wedding season of like get 2 rings. I don't know if they did that, but that's a great idea. Get your wife 2 rings, before you get married. Dang, that's a great idea. Are they doing that? Are they already doing it?
I don't know, but one of my colleagues actually uses the Oura ring as his wedding ring. And
funny.
I've heard multiple stories of folks doing that. So
That's so
maybe
smart.
there's a play there for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ping Doug. But this is like, it's perfect because it's like a timeless campaign, right? And you can play on so many different things. You could make a fiction series about someone who, gets their like Lord of the Rings, Gollum bites off their finger and the ring with it. Like there's infinite stuff that you could do with this sort of idea and take it all sorts of different directions that all lead back to the same thing, which is like, you should know more about your health and more about your body. And this is how you do it. And like, that's so freaking great. That's so, such good marketing.
I love that. And what you were saying about brands having to do both, I think that's true. And a way that I've thought about this in the past is I feel like you have your brand, your company brand, and then you have what I like to call the faces behind the brand.
For sure.
And that's like your user generated content, the more raw, it's things like, for example, on LinkedIn, it's very hard to grow your company following on LinkedIn. It's much easier to get impressions on people's accounts. Obviously, when I scroll LinkedIn, I see people's posts. I don't see company posts. And so it feels like maybe you can balance both. You can have the sort of polished, company's core company brand. That's your website, that's your company LinkedIn, but then you might have the faces behind the brand. And that could be where some of the raw formats come to play as well, where you have the person walking down the street with their phone.
For sure. Getting hit by birds.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
I think if you get hit by a bird, you should definitely keep that in and post it.
Definitely post it.
Don't
For
cut
my
that
sake.
one
And for my wife's sake, because she'll love it. Fun fact. So I interviewed Doug years ago, and is not surprising at all that his team came up with this. He's a really good marketer. He was in B2B marketing at One Medical. Well, sort of like B2B2C, sort of a combo. But also, but he was at Nest and a bunch of other stuff. But he's a really sharp marketer, and it doesn't surprise me. And this is the sort of thing that like you need to have this type of brand campaign when you're in a type of product arena like this. Like, as I sort of mentioned before, this is a big purchase. This is not a cheap thing, right? But it's your health. Like, there's actually nothing more important than it, right? Like, that's your health. So it's really not. It's like, oh, it's, if you could live whatever 7 days longer, is that worth, $400 or whatever it is? 1 day longer, is that, what's your hourly rate, right? So it's really not, right? And like, they need, like, brands like this just need a way to cut through the noise and to get people to take action on something that's in their best interest, right? And you just can't do that with performance marketing for this type of stuff. I mean, you can, but like, it's not going to be as resonant.
Yeah. And I think it's also, to your point, raising the value of the purchase. It's not just, hey, you can get some metrics on your sleep. It's like, that's in a very different value category than, do you want to live longer and better?
Yeah, totally. And also, like, that's like buying insurance, right? It's like, well, I know I need insurance. That doesn't make me like go to State Farm and buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know State Farm exists. I've never even been to the State Farm website, but if I was getting new insurance, like, they're going to be in the list of people because I know that they do it, And that's why all these insurance companies market, to the ends of the earth. We're not in the market for State Farm or Allstate or whatever, but it's almost like their business model is extremely
Right.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, but if you get the message like, hey, do you want to live longer? You're like, yeah, but you sound full of shit, right? Like, that's not a good place to be either.
Yeah.
So you got to be clever and quirky and interesting, and it can't all be like, you come to someone and you're like, hey, Meredith, do you know what your resting heart rate is? And Meredith's probably interested because she's very smart. But it's like, come to somebody else and they're like, I just want to put on the thing and it tell me what I'm doing wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. If we waved a magic wand and you're now the CMO of a startup, how do you think about where content fits into your go-to-market?
Yeah, I think content for me is the beginning. Like, actually, the first thing I would do if I joined a new blank slate, new company, nothing, no brand, nothing. The first thing I would do is write a manifesto. And the reason for that is because that becomes the soul and the core of all the other storytelling you're doing. Whether that content is brand focused or performance marketing or whatever category you want to put it in, it all needs to point back to some sort of why. It's like, well, why do you exist? And this is going to be a combination of what's in the founder's heart, like, why did they start this business, as well as knowing your audience really well and what's going to speak to them, knowing what's important to them right now, really deeply understanding them. But that is the exact first thing that I would do, because that's going to be the driver for all other content. And things like the format and is it raw or is it polished, or all of that can come later. But I think you need to capture the soul of it first, or everything else down the road is going to feel super disconnected. I had this moment a couple of years ago. We were launching a campaign, and one of the people on my team was like, what's the story for this campaign? Like, we've got like the logistics, we've got like the plan, but like, what are we talking about? And I just had this big aha moment where I realized that we were missing that. And you don't want to be in that position.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of marketing folks, you'll run into those, they'll have those little micro moments where you'll realize that it's missing. And I've had enough of those now that I know that that's where I would start.
Amazing. What's number 2? By the way, 100% agree. I would do that. In fact, I have done that. And that was, it wasn't the first thing I did, but it was like the first marketing thing I did for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The second thing I would do would be to just really, really deep customer research. Like, one of my core philosophies is that if you know the customer so well, the marketing strategy is going to write itself. And I believe that so much, especially now where everyone's saying the playbooks are dead. It's like, this is dead and this is dead and this is not working. And I think there's some truth to that. We're in a very tumultuous period right now where a lot of the playbooks that worked before aren't working. But I think even 2, 5, 6, 8 years ago, I see people make this mistake all the time in marketing where they go from one company to the next and they just copy paste whatever playbook they did at their last company. Like, that's not going to work. And so I think the core of it, yes, you have to have the core story, but you also have to understand the customer so well that the strategy comes from that. And you can build playbooks off of that. But if you don't start there, then you're probably going to get it wrong. So that's just basic things like, where do they hang out? And what's going on in their world? And what do they like? Like, you should be the best. You should know more about their problems than anyone else. And if you start there, then the strategy is going to become much more clear.
I would say that playbooks are actually not only living longer than ever, but they're later in life. It's, their activities, maybe they're using Oura rings. Maybe that's what they're doing.
Exactly.
I only set that up for the joke, if I'm being honest. I don't know if they're actually living longer. Okay, so this is great. Number 1 is write a manifesto. Number 2 is tons of customer research. I'm paraphrasing, but get stuff in their own words. As part of that. Okay, number 3. What's number 3?
Number 3 would be mapping out what the plays you're going to make are. And so that's where you can bring in all the tactics, knowledge, story, channels, et cetera, and put together a plan. And I think you just end up making a series of bets. Like, how many bets are you going to put on the 95% versus the 5%? How many bets are you going to put on, a certain channel versus another? With marketing, it's just like there's an infinite number of things you could be doing at any given moment. And so the question every day or week or month or quarter is just, which of those plays are we going to make? Which of those infinite things on the backlog are we going to do? And so that would be the next. And you just have to have some sort of loose framework in the beginning to define, so things like 95% and 5% are just helpful frameworks to just decide where you're going to place your bets.
Amazing. We don't need to keep going, but if you want to keep going, what else? I know you did a post on this, by the way. We'll link it up in the notes here. Sylvia has a really great post of the 9 things that she'd do differently as being a first marketer. So I'll link that up.
Yeah, I can talk about, a few of the tactics that I'm really excited about. Obviously, it would depend on your buyer, your customer, et cetera. But one thing I'm really excited about right now is ecosystem marketing, which is the topic. Emily Kramer, I think, is the person who coined it or who I heard it first from. But this concept of using your users, your partners, your community, and creating this like user-driven flywheel of marketing. And that can take a lot of different forms. She has a lot of great examples of how, other companies have done this. But that's definitely something I'm really excited about that I think is going to really keep working in the age of, AI, because it's human, it's peer-to-peer. I think people more than ever are going to their peers, mostly because they're like, what the heck do we do? And everyone's asking those questions in back rooms. And so I think the more that you can rely on that ecosystem marketing and create some plays around that, I think that's really going to work right now. And then I think other things is just like creative, like do things that are newsworthy, do things that are big and flashy. And especially I love the concept of things that only big companies would do, but doing them as a small company and doing them really scrappy. And so like example could be you buy buy a slot in the Times Square billboard, but it's like 10 seconds. And instead of caring who walks past the billboard, you do a whole photo or video or media shoot around it. And then you take that to digital, and it creates this perception that you're a huge company, even though you just bought the 10-second slot. Another example could be CTV ads. So this is something I've actually tested. There's a tool that I've used called Vibe.co where you can run CTV.
I get ads for them every day.
You can run it as retargeting.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but it's really cool. And
really cool.
And one of those things where you're like, you're running ads on TV? And it's like, yeah, but you're doing it really scrappy and it's not that expensive. And it's funny, when I talked to the Vibe folks, they were like, oh, here's an example of an ad that works really well. And it was literally just a person with their iPhone. And so I think you can do it way scrappier than you think you can.
Oh, I mean, yeah, 100%. I mean, and like you don't, to the point is like you don't need the crazy production value. Like you don't need to go shoot in the middle of the desert and like, close track and all, it's like you don't need to compete with car company commercials, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. No, I like all those. Yeah, I think they're also all things that bigger companies can do in their own way too, and just running smaller experiments and doing those sort of things. Like those same things are you can do those as a big company too, and they have just as big of an impact. Like there's so much stuff where you're like the out of home, taking photos of out of home stuff, like it matters. We all give a shit. Like we really all care about out of home. Like I'm not saying it's like works or doesn't work or anything like that, but I'm saying when we see our favorite brands out there in the world in out of home, it's like exciting. I think it's just, I had this sort of belief with advertising that we've had it for so long and we're so in on the joke that it's like we like good ads. So like that's the whole thing, right? Most are bad, but the ones that you like, right? It's like why we spend 45 minutes talking about the Oura ad. And everyone is like, just like everyone is a marketer, everyone is a consumer of ads, which is why they see themselves as a marketer. So when you see a good ad out in the wild, you're like, oh, that's cool. And so when you actually put an out of home ad and then you do it in a tiny billboard and whatever, and then you take a photo of it and then you share it all over the internet, it's doing the exact same thing, right? It's like someone paid to have a physical, like with the, I don't know if they still use the window washer type. I don't know how.
Yeah. I don't know how. Yeah.
But there's something about that, right? Like there's something where you're just like, I think, too, there's this, like the Better Call Saul type marketing. But it's like, we all understand someone's name and face and company on a billboard, and it's big as hell, and it's up there, and it's physical, and it's in person, and like there is reverence and respect for that.
Yeah,
for whatever
absolutely.
reason.
For whatever reason.
Yeah, it's like seeing someone on your TV where you're like, so I was part of an ad. I was featured in an ad, and they ran connected TV ads, and I was having all sorts of people that were texting me. They're like, I just saw you on my TV. Like that was weird. So that stuff, I totally agree. That stuff works really well.
Yeah. It just changes the perception. Like, oh, you must be doing something cool, or you
must. I mean, you must be, right?
Yeah.
Whereas,
you're making moves if you're larger than life on a billboard.
But notice nobody. I shouldn't say nobody, but that is way, way less rare for digital ads, right?
Yeah.
Like the amount of times that someone screenshots a digital ad and shares that and that goes viral is like next to never, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for digital, it's funny. Digital, for anything, billboards obviously as well, but for digital, I think the copy is so important. And like obviously, we talked about Oura and how great that copy is. But I spoke at the Dave Gerhardt's Exit 5 conference a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, cool.
And Harry Dry was speaking. He owns
Harry's the best.
Site. Incredible.
We sponsored his newsletter a couple times. I love Harry.
Amazing. Yeah, he was excellent. His whole one of the sort of bits that he went through was talking about there's two ways to double your revenue. You can either spend twice as much money on the ads, or you can write twice as good copy that converts twice as well. And he had this whole bit around it. I just thought that was so brilliant because it's like you think so much about the budget and the metrics and the measurement and but if you put half as much that effort into just like what the freaking copy is saying, that can change it that can change the unit economics of your whole campaign more than anything.
Same thing with Mr. Beast. Like the big lesson was that the same video with different thumbnails and so it's not just thumbnail and text copy, it's those in concert with each other, so them as like a unit, like a little family. that those in concert can have 10x or 100x results. And it's like, what's so funny, especially in B2B, we're like, we see that lesson. We see Mr. Beast build like, one of the most influential creators in the world. We watch him do that using thumbnails and like being maniacal about it. And then we're like, man, crazy. Anyways, and it's like we just go back to like completely ignoring that. Like, don't do that for our own stuff. I mean, even, we're guilty of this too. Like, ask me. But you're like, I just was talking to this earlier today because we're doing this like weekly webinar series, and I was like, we should probably like focus a ton on our thumbnails. But like, that's the funny thing, right? It's like, the lesson, that writing good copy, it's super important, and you can split test it and see what works too.
Right. Or you're like agonizing over every word in your newsletter or something, but you're not putting enough effort into the title, which is the thing that probably matters 80% of the whole thing.
Totally. Yeah. It's exactly. Or you're writing like 3 times more than you should, physically writing or actually writing. Yeah. All right. We got a couple minutes left. Give me some sort of like burning thoughts here, hot takes, whatever you got that's cropped up in the old skull about content and where we're headed and marketing.
Yeah. Another big thing that's top of mind for me is this concept of building internal influencers.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I just think that's a bet I would make all day long. And I've experienced this with my own LinkedIn, where I started posting just like 4 months ago, and it's just blown up, just sharing stories and learnings. And, I think empowering internal folks to share and post, and sort of like stealing a little bit from the Build in Public playbook, and you can kind of make it your own, but really empowering those people internally, finding those people internally that have been in your buyer's shoes, can speak to them, have done that job, have a lot to say, finding, the personalities internally that want to do that. I think that's some of the best marketing I'm seeing lately as well. It's just incredible.
Can I double down on that? If you're in a company and you have someone who's talented, we do this a lot because we build podcasts and video series for people. So, and there's, all hosts are not created equal. And like, when you find one that's great, you just have to say, we are going to back up the machine, and hopefully the Caspian machine, but like the machine behind this person. Like, we have to turn them into a content machine, because it's so rare. And when you do it right, it is like exponentially valuable. It's so valuable. It's so valuable such that that person can often leave your company and then not work again at a company, because they have such a large following that they can then just do that. Like, look at Emily Kramer, or look at whoever. Like, that's how powerful it can be if you find that right person, that their personality and the way they think about the world is great. So if you find that person, like, stop the presses, do whatever you can do to get them having more conversations in public, especially short form video, and especially put other smart people in a room with that person. Like, that is what, like, 1 + 1 = 3. Like, you take your smart person at your company, find other really talented, smart people. And I'm talking like great communicators, great thinkers, people who've written books, whatever it is, and like get them jamming on stuff together, not one time, but 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Like, do that. It yields such big results. Whereas like having that person interview a bunch of boring people when they're actually the star doesn't work. Right. And like, there's so many times where like people are a better color commentator than they are a play-by-play person. Right. It's like, it's hard to be both. But if they're good at like explaining things, put someone with them, pair them with the, if they're the John Madden, pair them with Pat Summerall or whatever it is. Like, don't just sit there and be like, well, man, she's really good at webinars, we'll see her next month, like.
Absolutely. And they don't have to be executives. They could be anyone in the company who's just passionate and has an opinion, has stories to tell and something to say. It could be anyone. I think I have a new life goal now, is to hopefully do this for somebody where they leave my team and do that full time for a living.
You blew them up so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. What else?
I think the other thing is just how, I know it's probably overplayed, just how AI plays into all of this. And I do think there's something there. I do think it can, from like a production perspective, process, et cetera, like it can do a lot. I've been doing a lot of experimentation on my own LinkedIn and writing, and just on like where it fits in and where it doesn't. And my current hypothesis is that it needs to just have like the biggest dump of source material possible, and then it can be helpful. But if you're just kind of like prompting it, it's not going to help you. It might help you brainstorm or outline a story arc or something like that. But I've found that just like if you can really give it like a very, very, very rich knowledge base of things to tap into, then the more helpful that it gets. Not great for the writing itself, as we
No.
talked about, for smoothing out the wrinkles. but I do think it can help with the knowledge base piece and giving it as much source material as possible, the better. And then you can really get some use out of it. But it's so easy to see when folks are using AI for the actual writing itself. Like I see this on LinkedIn all the time. It's like in 2 seconds, you can see, oh, written by AI, I'm scrolling up, moving on, And so I think people are going to keep self-selecting. And I talk to a lot of folks that post on LinkedIn, and they're like, yeah, I used AI for a little bit, and then engagement fell off a cliff. And now I'm coming back to just writing, and I'm writing as raw and unhinged as possible. And it feels like it's like supply and demand. It's like the supply of that rawness is lower than ever. And so it's more valuable than ever.
Yeah. Finding your unique voice, finding your writing style, how you write, how you think about things. I think also just shoving your crazy original ideas into the machine and helping it make sense of it. It's good at sort of like connecting your disparate thoughts. And that stuff it helps me with, where like I'll just like ask it 50 questions about all sorts of different stuff based off of like theories and hypotheses that I have. And it's like, oh, Ian, you're right. Oh, you're still right. You're even more right. That's a great idea. And I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm going to write that. That stuff is super helpful. And then I think like combining two things that are very difficult, and I call it sort of like in Ratatouille when Remy's like, eat the cheese and the grape together. It's a whole new world of possibilities. And so I think that stuff, it's good at that too. Where like you can say, hey, I want to write a blog post about Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein connected to B2B marketing. And then it can give you some sort of like a jump start there, which is like historically that would be potentially more difficult. And then it can get you on the path to write your own original idea.
The process I found that works really, really well is actually voice notes.
Oh yeah.
And I this was my process where, I get in the car to drive to the office, and I just start ranting voice note for like 10, 15 minutes. And then it can really take all my like crazy, I'll have this idea halfway through about this other thing, and it can really organize it into a very cohesive message. But that's because I gave it all the meat, and I still have to go back and edit the words to make sure that it sounds like what I would say. But that's the most useful use case I've found for it. It's just like voice note rant to cohesive story. And then I got something to work with.
Yeah, I did it. That's how I wrote my, I spoke at Content Marketing World this year. That's how I wrote it. I was just like, every day when I was driving in, I would just talk into the phone for 45 minutes, and then, and then I would restructure and then restructure and then restructure and then restructure. And then it's like, okay, give me these same points, but in like, one sentence for each, one sentence per slide, like whatever. And then like refine, based off of me, screaming in traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's something about the voice note. You can just like flow with an idea better. I think you second guess yourself too much when you're typing, and there's something about speaking it out that just the ideas will flow a lot better. I also will prompt it to ask me questions. So I'll be there and I'll be like, okay, ask me some questions about something I could write about. And it works really well for that as well. Because you'll look at this list of questions and one's going to jump out at you. And then that's the one that I'll voice note rant about.
Yeah. Cool. I do this with fiction too, where like I wrote this fiction. I wrote a pilot for this fiction thing that we're working on. We're working on like a little mini TV show type thing. for a client, and I wrote the pilot so I just spoke it. I basically said the entire plot of it. And what's crazy is you can say like, and then he said, and then she said, and then what, like, you don't even need to give it structure at all, and it'll figure it all out.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's crazy. And then it was like restructure. And then it wrote the entire, or they set up basically the entire script. And then I basically just went in and I wrote all the dialogue myself.
Yeah.
Because that's the part
awesome.
that you need human beings to actually speak to each other, right? So
exactly.
yeah. Sylvia, wonderful having you on the show. You have a new Substack. We're going to link that up. What else do you got going on? Any final thoughts? Anything to plug?
No, I think just, the new Substack is called the 0 to 1 Marketer. It's all about my crazy, lessons learned the hard way from being the first marketer at a few different companies that have done very well, building from scratch. And I find it's resonating. This concept is resonating so much, not just with actual first marketers, but also with any marketers, because I think the reason is it feels like we're all at zero right now. And so it's this concept of being the 0 to 1 marketer and building from zero. It feels like we're all there
100%.
because
I
like
totally
we
agree.
discussed, the playbooks are dead. And so I think everyone's just kind of in that blank slate mindset, and it's really scary, but I also think it's just a really exciting place to be. There can be so much creativity that comes out of that like zero rock bottom feeling. And so I'm excited about that.
Thanks, Sylvia. Wonderful chatting, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.